To represent the world, our team selected 18 countries, divided into developed, developing, and underdeveloped, based on GNI per capita and HDI scores. This mirrors global population distribution, allowing reliable insights. We analyzed climate change using key causes like emissions, deforestation, and agriculture, and their effects such as health decline and rising seas. Based on this, we reclassified as polluters or non-polluters, depending on both impact and intent. This cause-effect model helps us understand not just what's happening, but why it's happening. Let's dive in.
In the next phase, we analyze the causes of climate change across all 18 countries, focusing on four key factors: greenhouse gas emissions, fossil fuel share, industrial output, and deforestation. These were studied not just in raw numbers, but relative to population share and historical responsibility. Developed nations grew without climate restrictions, but now pressure others who are still developing. That's why we didn't just group countries as polluters or non-polluters. We also flagged deviants, nations whose behaviors break the mold. Let's explore. We began with fossil fuel share, comparing clean versus unclean energy use across all 18 countries. Developed nations, despite having the means to shift, still rely on fossil fuels, making them polluters by choice. Developing nations use fossil fuels out of necessity, while underdeveloped ones pollute less simply due to lack of infrastructure. But there are deviants. New Zealand, a developed country, uses over 86% clean energy, setting a gold standard. Brazil, though still developing, beats many developed countries with 80% clean energy. These outliners challenge stereotypes and expectations.
Next, we analyze greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 to 2020. Developed countries, despite having resources and awareness, continue to emit heavily, making them polluters by choice. Developing countries emit to fuel growth, just as developed ones did in the past, labeled polluters by need. Underdeveloped countries remain low emitters, but only due to limited industrial capacity. A key deviant is China, a developing country contributing over 60% of its group's emissions. Its scale and impact blur the line between need and choice.
Industrial output reveals how much each country contributes to global manufacturing and production. Developed countries continue to dominate, even when cleaner options exist. Developing countries produce at large scale to meet economic goals, while underdeveloped nations lag behind due to limited infrastructure. But two outliners stand out: China, with a staggering $4.9 trillion output, surpassing all developed nations. It no longer fits the growth-based narrative. And Nigeria, expected to be low output, exceeds $64 billion, showing real industrial presence. These exceptions shift how we see responsibility.
Deforestation reflects how land is treated and why. Developed countries with the ability to regulate and restore forests still see major tree loss, making it a deliberate choice. Developing nations often clear land out of necessity to expand farms, industries, or homes. Underdeveloped nations show minimal deforestation, not due to sustainability, but because they lack the tools, demand, or infrastructure to exploit forest land. In all cases, deforestation reveals motive, whether it's driven by growth, greed, or just plain limitation.
We studied five major effects of climate change: sea level rise, air quality degradation, agriculture system strain, waste and landfill emissions, and the impact of urban expansion. These effects weren't analyzed for every country individually, but were distributed across our dataset to extract broad, meaningful trends. All of them link back to the causes we previously discussed. While our main analysis is effect-based, an optional interactive world map allows viewers to explore detailed graphs and stats for each country.
Germany doesn't border an ocean, but sea level rise still threatens its North Sea coast and cities like Hamburg. This 3D graph shows projected global sea level rise till 2150, driven by glacial melt, Antarctic and Greenland ice loss, and ocean expansion. For Germany, this means stronger storm surges, inland floods, and coastal infrastructure damage.
Papua New Guinea's coral reefs face serious threats from coastal development, pollution, and overfishing. Climate change worsens this by raising sea levels and altering water chemistry. Pollution from land and sea further weakens coral resilience. These changes endanger both ecosystems and local livelihoods. Urgent climate action and sustainable practices are crucial to protect reefs and communities.
Russia's air quality is declining due to fossil fuel emissions, land-based pollution, and unsustainable development. This threat profile highlights impacts from overfishing, watershed pollution, and coastal damage. Industrial zones worsen public health and climate change. As the Arctic thaws, tackling emissions is urgent for both people and the planet.
United Kingdom's nitrogen dioxide emissions have dropped sharply from 1990 to 2022, mainly due to cleaner transport and stricter regulations. Electricity emissions also declined with a shift to renewables. This has improved air quality and slowed short-term warming, showing how policy and technology can cut pollution and climate impact together.
Canada's cereal yields have risen since 1960, even as arable land declined slightly after the 1990s. This means more food is grown on less land, agricultural intensification. But it comes with concerns: higher fertilizer use, soil stress, and water demand. Climate change adds pressure, making resilient, sustainable farming vital for long-term food security.
India's agriculture, a vital sector, is also a major emission source. From rice farming, livestock, and fertilizers, climate change worsens its challenges through erratic monsoons and heat, risking food security. Low emission farming, better irrigation, and climate smart practices are essential to protect crops and farmers.
Australia's carbon emissions peaked in the early 2000s, driven mostly by coal. Despite some fluctuations, emissions remain high, showing heavy fossil fuel reliance. High fuel use also means more landfill emissions, especially methane. To meet climate goals, Australia must cut both energy and waste emissions through cleaner power and better waste management.
From 2000 to 2020, Turkey's industrial waste emissions rose sharply, while municipal waste grew slightly. Industrial expansion drives this, but it increases methane emissions from landfills, a potent climate threat. Better waste segregation and methane control are key to reducing these risks and strengthening climate resilience.
From 2001 to 2023, Kenya saw better access to water and sanitation, but infant mortality stayed unstable, and healthy life expectancy barely rose. Rapid urban growth strains services, especially in informal settlements. Climate change worsens water scarcity and disease risks. Urban planning and climate resilience are now key to better health outcomes.
Since 2000, Germany's industry and transport sectors have led energy use, with rising demands from residential and public sectors. This boosts fossil fuel reliance and emissions. Meeting climate targets requires renewable energy and efficient urban planning to align growth with sustainability.
After evaluating 18 countries using a weighted model, our conclusions tab assigns final verdicts. 5 nations are polluters by choice, 8 are polluters by need, and 5 are non-polluters, based on causes, effects, and development status. But identifying problems isn't enough. Our Solutions tab introduces a Global Climate Burden Sharing Compact. It mandates GDP-based climate contributions, prioritizes adaptation in multiple regions, and launches renewable mega projects. We propose a UN climate goal, a verification system to combat greenwashing, and a reparations committee for climate justice. Together, these reforms aim to drive an equitable, science-based, and accountable future. The time for climate justice is now.